everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BSN podcast. Today is Tuesday, August 9th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Tuesday, August 9th here today, coming off of a very good night last night in the world of sports for New York baseball. The Yankees get a win 9-4, much needed. Finally get back into the win column after a rocky couple. Really, the past month has been really tough. So they get a win last night. It does come at a cost, losing Matt Carpenter. We'll get into that more in the second topic today. But the Yankees get a win, and that's really all that matters. You know, obviously Carpenter, it stinks to see him go down. It's a huge loss for us. But hopefully this is the start of, the Yankees getting back to their winning ways, starting to win games, hitting with runners in scoring position. We saw all that last night. Donaldson had a big night. Judge had a big night. Double, home run, all that good stuff. Benintendi added on with two more hits and a couple RBIs. So last night was very good for the Yankees. It was a very good win. It was a dominant 9-4 victory where you just hit home runs, you were getting runs in, you were scoring with runners in scoring position, you were doing all that good stuff. It does stink to see Carpenter down. We will get to that, but it was a good win for the Yankees, and the same goes for the Mets. A good win for the New York Mets as they beat the Reds 5-1, and these are the series for the Mets where you're up in your division still by a lot. The Braves, you just got done taking 4 or 5 against Atlanta. These are the type of series where it separates the good teams and the great teams. If you want to be a very good team, you beat the good teams, and, you might struggle against the bad teams. But if you beat the bad teams, take care of business when you need to take care of business, that's really what's going to elevate you amongst, over the, in the standings and really create that separation. So, got the job done against Cincinnati last night. You look to beat up on a bad Cincinnati Reds team for the next 2 days. Then you welcome Philly to town. And then it's a 4-game set back in Atlanta again. And you hope you go into that series, if you're a Met fan, with a very big lead because you're better than Cincinnati. And although the Phillies have been playing better recently, you're better than you can beat the Phillies. So you got to feel good at where you're at right now as a Met fan as they continue to win and get another win last night. Excellent start from Chris Bassett, going 8 strong innings of 8 strikeouts. So very good win last night for the Mets. So let's get top topics for today's podcast. By the way, Yankees, Mets both will play the second game of their 3-game sets. Yankees in Seattle, Mets at home against Cincinnati. So the topics for today's podcast, we're going to get to the Jets training camp update. So like I said, I'm going to talk about, the Jets training camp yesterday, and I'm also going to get to the green and white scrimmage and kind of recap it all. I was able to see both those practices and scrimmage. So I was going to take what I kind of saw and, put it all into just an update. I know I did an update, I think on Thursday I did, so it's Tuesday I'm doing another one. But we also have a lot of news out of the Jets with injuries to Mekhi Becton. We'll get into that as well. It's really tough to see him go down the way he did, coming off of the knee injury, losing some weight this offseason to get ready for camp, get into game shape. He goes down, and the initial reports were it's okay, his knee was fine. Now it looks as if it's a lot more severe, and you hear rumors that it could be season-ending, depending on how bad and if it requires surgery. So we will see how all that plays out. But we'll get to the Jets training camp update to start. We'll then get to the Matt Carpenter news. Suffers a broken foot. It just stinks. It's baseball. It happens. Fouled a ball off his foot, breaks his foot. It's going to happen. It stinks. It's not good. It's a big loss for this Yankee team. I'll get into what this means and where do the Yankees go from here. There's a guy in the minor leagues at AAA that everybody's wanted to be called up. Oswald Peraza is this now his chance? Do the Yankees maybe go at Andujar and call him up? A guy who could play outfield. Peraza really doesn't play outfield. So where do the Yankees go from here? We'll get into all that, and then we'll finish things off with the New York Sports Update. As always, Yankees today, second game of a 3-game set against Seattle, and a big night tonight for the Yankees. Not only did you win game 1, so you go for the series win tonight, which will then set up the sweep tomorrow, but you got Cole on the mound. He's going up against Castillo. We all remember Wednesday of last week, Cole versus Castillo. It did not go well. Cole pitched terrible. Castillo was good. Yankees got smoked. Today's a big game for Cole. Not only is it his second time around against Seattle, which the advantage could be for the Seattle Mariners, but he's got to come out and have a good performance, because if he lays another dud, another 5-6 run outing, now you really wonder, what are the Yankees going to do with their pitching staff? So a big night tonight for the Yankees and Cole, and the Mets as well will look for their second win of the series against the Reds. All right, so with all that being said, let's get right into it. Here. So, Jets training camp was yesterday. They'll also have it today. You know how it is. It's every day basically. Sundays, sometimes they have day off on the Sundays. Sometimes it's a Saturday, Friday, whatever. But the Yankees had training camp yesterday. They also had a green and white scrimmage on Saturday. Sunday they had a day off. So yesterday they were, fresh off of the scrimmage. And, like I've said this all along, when I did my camp update on Thursday, I've said it all along. The New York Jets, all we want to see in this training camp is to continue to get, improvement. You want to see from day one, which was July 27th or something like that, the 26th. I think that was day one of camp. You wanted to see improvement. And then obviously the first day of pads, once pads came on, you also wanted to see improvement there because it's tough to gauge when you see no pads to when you get pads on. That's when you can really start hitting, contact, all that good stuff. So, what I saw out of both days, and this is what's great, is you saw Zach Wilson play very well over the past, 2 days. You saw him play very solid in the green and white scrimmage, and you saw him, do well yesterday on Monday at training camp. And that's exactly what you want to see if you're a New York Jet fan. From what you saw day one of training camp to what you see on the final day of training camp, going into, week one and all that, you want to see him get better. You want to see him improve. You want to see him, command, the field, get the ball out to Garrett Wilson, get the ball out to Corey Davis, get the ball out to all of his different receivers. That's what you want to see out of Zach Wilson. And we saw that at the green and white scrimmage on Monday, or on Saturday rather, and we saw it at training camp yesterday on Monday where he was commanding, the offense, was taking what the defense was giving him, was getting the ball out. He got Corey Davis involved a lot. He got Tyler Conklin involved a lot. That's what you want to see out of a young quarterback. You want to see a young quarterback utilize his weapons, utilize the tight ends. He got the ball out to Uzama as well. Something that I've noticed over the past couple days, and this is great, and this is why you get tight ends, especially for a young quarterback. Wilson is really utilizing Conklin, and he's really utilizing Uzama. Now, I feel like in a way, and maybe this is just the reps, because I think Conklin's getting a little bit more first-team reps maybe, in a way, but it seems, as if Conklin's getting a lot of action. Wilson is really, really utilizing Tyler Conklin, and it seems as if that's going to become a target, just a stable, a stable target for Zach Wilson to throw to. Something the Jets have not had in a very long time. They have not had a solid tight end. They have not had a tight end that can catch in tight coverage for a very long time. They go from not having that for about a decade to now having two very good tight ends who can catch in coverage. Two guys that have, have been in the league a long time, are veterans. They know, they're smart guys. They can help Wilson, all that stuff. He's utilizing Conklin a lot, and you saw that on Saturday at the green and white scrimmage where he threw an excellent pass to Conklin, double coverage across the middle, really tight spiral right to Conklin for a touchdown, and he commanded that drive well, getting the ball out, getting it out quickly. Something I've noticed too with Wilson is there was times last year where you saw, and this is a rookie, there's mistakes, it's going to happen, but there was times last year where. And every quarterback's going to do this. And it's frustrating as a fan because you really just wonder why they try and make something out of nothing out of something. But what we saw last year a lot of out of Wilson was he'd get the ball. If there was, if the pocket started to collapse, he wouldn't utilize his legs. He'd either throw the ball on the ground or, throw it somewhere, whatever. He would... when the pocket collapses, he kind of panics sometimes. And that's going to happen as a rookie quarterback, right? Anytime the pocket collapses, quarterbacks, things start to speed up. You realize that you might get hit any second. You got to get rid of the ball. Because, even if you just throw it away, it's better than taking a 10-yard sack, which is something Darnold, Darnold held on to the ball too long and he'd throw it off his back foot. He would just do a bunch of dumb stuff. What we saw last year out of Wilson was he'd sometimes try to get the ball out at the last second to one of his running backs and he'd pound it into the ground, or he'd get it out to a running back, but he'd be tackled right away because the corner would be all over him. It's one of those plays where it's just nobody's open, and one of the things that Wilson has to advantage is he has his legs. Darnold, I will tell you, when Darnold was the quarterback, his mobility wasn't like Zach. Zach Wilson's got very good mobility. And I think that's something that I saw him utilize a lot more in the green and white scrimmage. There was a couple of plays where the pocket collapsed, which is a bad thing and a good thing. Because like I said, training camp, there's going to be good things, there's going to be bad things. When the offense scores a touchdown, that's good for the offense, good for Wilson. It's bad for the defense. When the defense gets an interception, it's good for the defense, bad for the quarterback, bad for the offense. So there's going to be positives and negatives any day at a training camp. But what you saw on the green and white scrimmage was, when the pocket collapsed, I saw there was at least 2-3 times, and I believe Wilson ended the day with about 24 or something rushing yards, where he was able to, escape out of the pocket and get, make a play that looked like it was going nowhere, turn it into a 5-10 yard gain, and boom, now you're looking at, instead of a loss of 10, you're looking at of a gain of 8 or 9 or 10 yards, and, instead of a second down and long, you're looking at a fresh set of downs. That's what Wilson can do with his legs, and I saw that a lot more in the green and white scrimmage. Saw it a little bit yesterday, too, with him scrambling out of the pocket. There was one play, he was on the run, threw sidearm across the middle yesterday to Elijah Moore. It was a beautiful pass. That's the natural talent that Wilson has. It's all about, and I've said this with Wilson a lot of times, with Zach Wilson, is he's got the talent. He's got the arm strength. He's got all the tools. He's very smart. I mean, you listen to him, even during the Jets documentary that they did this past offseason. You just listen to him dissect film that he's watching. He knows the game. He knows the ins and outs. And we all knew that even last year and going into this season. It's all about the decision-making. Last year, the decision-making was questionable. But what I've seen so far, it's been a lot better. And he's utilized his legs a lot more. He's getting the ball out, spraying the ball out, something that he didn't do very well last year. He tried to force sometimes too much to Corey Davis. He tried to, force passes to, sometimes it's, it just as a rookie quarterback, it's just tough. There's a lot coming your way. It's tough. So I really have so far, and I truly believe this, I really have seen, from the 2 days that I saw in person at the green and white scrimmage and the training camp yesterday, I really have seen Wilson spread the ball out more, show that growth. Kind of in a way, it looks like he's starting to slow the game down. Look over his options. Take what the defense is giving him. Not throwing the ball 50 yards downfield, hoping that it's a catch, on a play that you only need 3 yards. We saw that sometimes last year with Wilson too, where it'd be a 3rd down and 3, all you need is 3 yards, and he'd throw the ball 30 yards downfield and it'd be an incompletion, and now you got to punt. That's something you don't want. You got to take what the defense is giving you, and he's done that so far, utilizing his legs as well. So, on the green and white scrimmage, Zach Wilson total went 12-19. He had a touchdown. That touchdown was the Conklin, like I said. He did have one interception. Delshon Phillips had it. But look, it's going to happen. Like I said, defense is going to make plays. It's good for the defense. Not great for the offense. It's going to happen. But you also want to see the defense make some plays, because we also have to realize this defense last year was historically bad. So to see that make some plays too is really good. 12-19, a touchdown, a pick. And a couple of those too were drops. Corey Davis had a couple drops. One was right on his hands. He dropped it. So you assume if those are catches, he more so goes 15, 16 of 19. And, maybe 100 and, he had 100 yards, maybe 130 yards. Now all of a sudden it looks a whole lot better. The one play, Berrios, they ruled it incompletion. It looked like a catch to me, but they ruled it incompletion. But, in a green and white scrimmage, not going to challenge it, obviously. But so you could go either way with that, whether that was a catch or not. It would either make him 13-19, whatever. It's not a big deal. But it's first half where they had the I believe it was a 20-minute first half. Clock kept running. They got first team, second team, third team all in there. His first half, he went 7-9, 57 yards and a touchdown. That was obviously Conklin. And I also saw him, like I said, use his legs. That's something that the Jets, that's something that you want to see more of this year out of Zach Wilson. Him utilizing his legs, him getting out of the pocket, if it's collapsing. And sure, you got to throw the ball away sometimes. You're going to have to. I'm not saying if the pocket collapses, automatically go run every time, even if there's no room. But if there is a hole, if there is a space, if you do see 5-10 yards of, green grass or green turf, whatever you are playing on, take that. Take that and run with it. He's got the mobility. He's got that athleticism, and that's a positive to his game. And yesterday at training camp, he went 9 of 11, a touchdown, no picks, was good. One of the incompletions he had was a throwaway. So other than that, he really only had one legit incompletion where he actually tried to complete a pass. The other one was he just threw the ball away because pressure got to him. One of those touchdowns was to Corey Davis, which was good, and one of the touchdown drives was to 4 or 5 passing. Got the ball to Davis, moved down the field quickly, and Corey Davis beat Bryce Hall on that play. So it's good to see him getting the ball out to Corey Davis, who should be a threat this year in the receiving corps. And that's good to see, definitely, from Wilson and this offense. And I saw yesterday too, when Becton got injured and walked off the field, the next couple plays were awful. I mean, Chuma Edoga or Idaga, whatever you want to call him, the guy was terrible. He's not good. So Jets do need to address the offensive line. So some other guys that I mentioned, just standouts. Like I said, Tyler Conklin has been phenomenal. I think he's been one of the most impressive guys, I think, on this roster. When you look at, guys that, have come in, free agency. I mean, he's just a big body in the middle of the field. Uzama as well. Uzama's been very good. I've just seen, I think, in my personal opinion, from what I've saw, it looks like Conklin is Wilson's favorite target in a way right now. Like, he's getting the ball out to him. Uzama, too. He's getting the ball out to Uzama. I've just seen more of Conklin getting involved than Uzama at this point, but that's also just the snap counts and all that stuff, with Conklin being out there more so with Wilson, all that stuff. Conklin's been great. Corey Davis obviously catching a couple touchdowns from Wilson, had one yesterday. He's been good. It's a big year for Corey Davis because we brought in a lot of young receivers. We've got a lot of young talent there. If Davis struggles this year and he's injured, you're looking at a year where he's got, the team options, it's a team option after this end of this season. It was a team-friendly contract. They could easily opt out of that. So Corey Davis has got to have a big year, and he's had a couple good days in a row here. And like I said, C.J. Uzama, another guy. And I think one of the most impressive guys I've seen. Conklin's been impressive, Wilson as well. But based off of a new guy, Breece Hall. I mean, when you watch videos and you see, tweets and you hear people talk about him, being elusive and stuff, that's all great. That's great. Anybody could say that about anybody. You could say that about just about anybody. That's awesome. But when you see him in person, I mean, he is so quick, fast. I mean, I love Michael Carter. I think he's going to be a very solid running back for us for a very long time. But even like Michael Carter, and he's had some nice runs too. I think yesterday had nice runs. LaMichael Pirine too yesterday had a couple good runs. Pirine's a guy that, has kind of gotten lost in the shuffle, but he had a couple good days here and there in camp. But Breece Hall is just so quick. He's so elusive. I mean, he is as advertised. I mean, when we drafted him out of USC this year, you expected a guy to be quick. You expected him to be fast. You expected him, to just, be able to, just slip through tackles. And, once he gets to the second level, I mean, he is so quick. But even it's just the initial, getting past the initial, linemen and then linebackers, just getting past those guys. I mean, he's so quick. Like, he gets it, he cuts again, cuts again and runs, then cuts. Like, he's just he's just quick. And it's, as a running back, that's sometimes just natural talent to recognize, when defenders are coming at you, recognize when you need to, do a juke, or when you need to, break, go another way or whatever. I mean, he's just such an elusive and quick running back. I mean, he is as good as advertised. I mean, he was phenomenal last year for USC, or not USC, I apologize, Iowa State. Phenomenal last year for Iowa State, and very good career. Guy that a lot of teams were looking at. I know the Bills were looking at him. People said he was the best running back in the draft. I didn't think I personally did not see the Jets drafting him just because they had Michael Carter. But when you add him to the mix, and as elusive as he was, and you already have Michael Carter that mix, it makes this running back room such a threat, because you have two young running backs, two guys that are extremely quick and extremely fast. I mean, there's a lot of potential in that running back room. And not only is that going to be big for them, but it's going to be big for Wilson. Because, it's big for a quarterback to have good running backs. Anytime, if nobody's open, running back might be there for a quick dump off. If you're not having a great game in terms of passing, it's big to have a very good running game that can move the ball. Right? I mean, if you have a game where you can't pass the ball and you're struggling, and you don't have the running backs to move the ball, that's what happened during the Gaze era. Darnold struggled. He couldn't, there was games where passing offense couldn't get going, which is basically every game. And then you had a running back room that couldn't get anything going either, and that's why our offense, it was 3 and outs, because you couldn't get anything going. So it's huge that if there is a game where Wilson might be having an off game, well, you can rely on Breece Hall and Michael Carter to still get first down, still get yards, still, give you, still gain yards. I'm not saying Wilson means like he's not going to complete any passes, but let's say there is a game where he's struggling a little bit, and maybe, he's, or the secondary is just locked down on the receivers. this running back room is so good that you can rely on them to still make up those yards, to still keep you competitive, still keep you in the game. And like I said, if there's a play that breaks down, and which is going to happen to the best of them, if there's a play that breaks down, Wilson has two reliable running backs to rely on that are very good out of the backfield to a catch, and that he could dump it off. And look at Breece Hall. Breece Hall's one. I talk about this often. When you look at a player, like there's players out there that can make like a 5-yard play or a dump off turn into like a 10, 15-yard play. Breece Hall's one of those guys. With that quick as he is and how elusive he is to get past defenders, he's a guy that could take a 1-yard little dump off and turn it into a first down. He's like that. The same thing with Michael Carter too, but Breece Hall really stuck out to me. So that was good to see. Jacob Martin yesterday had a very good day. Coming off the edge after Becton left, guy we got this offseason. He's an edge rusher, had a good day. Two sacks on the day, couple pressures, so good day for him. And there was a guy, too, that stood out to me on the green and white scrimmage, was Calvin Jackson. Now, you might not have never heard of the guy, and I'm not saying that he's going to be a starter, but, he's young. He's on the unofficial depth chart. He's ranked as, like, the third receiver, like the third string. But he had a good day with the second and third team offense. Made a couple good catches. I think he had a one-hander, too. So he had a good day there. So those are all the positives out of Jets camp. Breece Hall looks as good as advertised. Wilson continues to stack up good days. Offense continues to, just improve. Defense as well. Defense continues to make plays. It's funny. Sauce too. I saw Sauce a lot. Yesterday, Sauce was on, he was bouncing around with different receivers, but on the green and white scrimmage, Sauce was on Elijah Moore, and he had plays on Corey Davis. There was a couple plays where he was just all over those guys. Sauce he's long, he's thin, but he's just long. He's built like a cornerback. He's fast, he's quick. He's a guy, too, that he's got long arms. Another guy, when you see in person, and you see him, up against some of these other receivers, he shuts some of these guys down. So it's good to see that out of him too. So defense, offense, both doing some things. So those are the positives. And, never a dull moment with the New York Jets. The negative comes with Mekhi Becton. So yesterday Becton gets injured. From what I saw, he kind of just fell down after looking at the video of it. Because where I was at, I was kind of watching the play develop. I really wasn't staring at Becton. I was more watching Breece Hall. And I got nervous for a second because Breece Hall tripped over Becton on that play. And I got worried because I thought, oh no, is Breece Hall going to fall and twist an ankle? Because he just tripped over Becton. That's a big body to trip over, And I thought, for a second that Breece Hall was going to be hurt. But he was fine. It was Becton. I was concerned too with Breece Hall. If Becton, he rolled over, and if he kept rolling and Breece Hall got his ankle stuck under him or something and tried to get over him, that's where injuries could occur there. So I was worried about Breece Hall at first, but then Becton was down. He quickly got up, walked off the field, was clearly frustrated, kind of threw his pads aside. And at first, the original prognosis or original whatever you want to call it, the original I thought was, and Saleh said this in his post-game or post-practice press conference, was it's fine. There was nothing structural that was damaged. There's going to be an MRI just to make sure that that's officially what it is. They didn't send, they're doing an MRI just out of precaution. It really wasn't, going into the MRI yesterday, it wasn't like something they're doing an MRI because they think it's something major. They're just doing an MRI just to be sure that it is what they thought it was, where the knee's stable. And at first, the Jets didn't even really think that it was a major injury. That it was something, like I said, that they thought might just take a couple days. That's the original thought. Maybe you'd have a day or 2 or 3 off, a couple days off. You look at DJ Reed. He's a guy that's got a hamstring issue right now. Nothing major. He's just doing some work on the side. But a guy that's only about a week or so off. Not a long time. Just a couple days off for him. So that was the original thought with Becton. MRI comes back. It does not come back good. And now he's going to have more tests today. We should find out very soon how long he's going to be out. And it goes from maybe being a thing where it's just a couple days of healing, ice, all that stuff, to it might be something that might require another surgery and he might be out the entirety of the season. If not all of it, he might be out at least a good chunk of it. And that is just about as bad as it could get if you're the New York Jets. Because now you look at your tackle situation. You felt so good at Becton at right, Font at left tackle, had a very good year at left tackle. And you feel good about that. You're like, all right, now this is our complete line. And now Becton goes down. And the depth behind Mekhi Becton is not good at all. Okay, Connor McDermott isn't good. The only good thing about Connor McDermott was when he caught that 2-point conversion last year by Zach Wilson in the Jaguars game. That's about it. And even he got hurt. It's an ankle sprain that he suffered during the green and white scrimmage. It looked actually pretty bad. He needed to get helped off the field. He's out 1 to 2 weeks, so he'll be back. And then your other guy is Chuma Edoga, and he's not good at all. He stinks. He's been with the team for a couple years now as a backup, and anytime he comes in, it's not good. And like I said yesterday, Chuma Edoga comes in. So his first play in, his very first play in, Jacob Martin blows past him and gets to Zach Wilson in what would be a sack. So Edoga is not a good option. McDermott, not very good. So Jets' depth outside of Becton isn't very good. And now, they did bring Duane Brown in for a visit. He was actually at the green and white scrimmage. And now it seems as if Duane Brown might have to they might have to sign Duane Brown. Duane Brown was or Dwayne Brown, whatever you want to say. He was kind of just a depth piece at the time. If we would to bring him in with Becton being healthy. But now that Becton's hurt, you bring in Dwayne Brown, and now you wonder, all right, he might have to start. Not might, he's going to have to start. And I don't have an issue with that. I think Dwayne Brown's the best guy in the market right now. It just stinks to see Becton go down. And I understand, weight's been an issue and all that stuff, but he has put in a lot of work. And to be ready for training camp, he came into mini camp, he wasn't ready. He was close to 400 pounds. Jets weren't happy about it. It wasn't good. And, he wasn't even doing stuff at minicamp either, where he was just doing stuff on the side. It wasn't good. So, he puts in a lot of work over the, kind of the 40-day stretch ranging from the minicamp to the start of training camp, comes in the camp, ready to go. His knee's still still bothering him a little bit, but he's grinding through it, he's working through it, and now he gets hurt. And there are videos of him limping, especially yesterday, of him limping and seriously laboring during practice. You wonder if that knee's not fully healed yet. But it stinks because, anytime you lose and if you hear people say, oh, it's not the end of the world, well, you're losing your starting right tackle. Anytime you lose a tackle, anytime you lose a starter, it's going to hurt you in some way. Now, you could bring in Duane Brown, but the thing with Duane Brown is he plays left tackle. So now you're going to have to move Font over to right tackle, which he's not nearly as good at right tackle as he has left tackle. Last season, he played left tackle. He was phenomenal. George Font was great last year. He probably had the best year of his career at left tackle. And that's why the Jets kept him at left tackle and brought in and put Becton at right. So now you're going to have to probably move Font back to right, bring in Duane Brown, put him at left because he's been at left his entire year, and he's 5-time Pro Bowler left tackle, including he made the Pro Bowl last year. He is 36 years old. So now you really wonder what happens there. So it seems as if things are heating up for Duane Brown in terms of signing him, but you really have to question now, is George Font going to be as good as he was last year if you got to move him again? So it does raise some questions, and it's tough because there was a lot of promise with this offensive line. And I'm not saying this offensive line is now all of a sudden going to stink. You still have Elijah Vera Tucker. You still have Font. You still have McGovern, who isn't great, but he's solid. You still have Lincoln Tomlinson, who you signed in the offseason. All that good stuff. Your offense, it's not like your offensive line's done now. You can solve it, but you got to bring in Duane Brown. I think that's the biggest thing. If you don't bring in Duane Brown, you got to bring in somebody else because you cannot possibly sit here and trust Connor McDermott and Chuma Edoga to be your guys against Wilson. And not only is this bad for Becton because, he comes all the way back now, another knee injury. Not only is this just bad for him, but now it hurts his career a little bit because that's 2 knee surgeries in a row, back-to-back years, less than a year apart. It's like, how much more can his body endure? You'll see. And, you hear all the stuff, is that the last practice of him as a Jet? Look, that's all down the road. If he misses this entire season, who knows what's going to happen? That's something that we focus on in January, February, and March of next year, okay? That's not something we should be focused on right now, but it does raise questions. So, and the reason the Jets need to think quick on this is because they have preseason games coming up. And the last thing you want to do as a organization, and we saw them do this with Darnold, we've seen them do this time and time again, is put a poor offensive line around your young second-year quarterback and have him be pressured every play and the risk of injury there increasing a whole lot. That is the absolute last thing you want. So Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, and this organization needs to figure this out, whether that's bringing in Dwayne Brown, whether it's bringing in somebody else. I'd assume Dwayne Brown's the best option. I don't assume. He is the best option. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. He's played in the league for a long time. He's 36 years old. He's a veteran. Supposedly, his visit with the Jets on Saturday at the green and white scrimmage, they say he came in great shape. They say he's ready to go. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. He was a Pro Bowl last year. He's the best option out there. You gotta do this quick though, because you cannot possibly put Zach Wilson at risk of injury if you got a poor offensive line and a poor right side and whatever. If you have a hole in your offensive line, it's not good, right? It's just not good. And even Wilson, he had not a major knee injury, but he had a minor knee injury last year too because he got sacked. So, you're gonna get sacked, but he can't be running for his life every play, because then you can't evaluate him, and it's tough to get better. So Jets need to think fast, and whether they bring him, whether it's a Dwayne Brown, whatever it is, we'll see. So it seems as if the Jets like Dwayne Brown a lot. He's also played alongside Font already. Font, Seattle, Dwayne Brown as well in Seattle. I think you gotta bring him in. So, we'll see what happens. But if it is something that, now Dwayne Brown's price goes up too. His price goes up, but, sometimes you're gonna have to pay that top, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more to protect your quarterback. So, whatever it takes, if Becton's out for a long time, which would be bad, which would be terrible, not even just for the Jets, but just for him personally. A guy that missed virtually all of last year. Let's be honest. He played, a quarter of football last season. Week 1, he got hurt. So, basically missed all of last season. Then you go this year, he comes in this year, weight issue, works on it, comes in the camp ready, still a little limping. He's laboring, but he was grinding through it. Now he's hurt. It's just been a wild past year for Becton with a whole lot of injuries. And, we'll see. And now you raised the question, was he really fully healthy to come back to camp? Because if this is a re-injury and he still was limping and he still wasn't feeling 100%, was he fully healthy? And you raised the questions of, did the Jets notice this? Did he kind of say, look, I'm all right, I'm all right? It's just, it's interesting. The other day you heard something about that he was feeling pain in his knee, or slight pain, but it was to be expected because, it was his first time really kind of doing football stuff with the knee, coming off of surgery. You really wonder if Becton was truly ready to come back, or if he was just trying to make a statement and say, look, I'm ready to go, don't worry about it, I'm fine. And now he gets hurt, and now, maybe if just a little bit more rest could have helped it, now you look at it possibly of another season-ending injury and another surgery to a knee that he just had surgery with less than a year ago. So, questions definitely begin to get raised about that, and just about the whole handling of the situation. So, it's an interesting spot, but never a dull moment with the New York Jets. So, things were going well in camp. Becton was the only question mark going into the training camp. He came to training camp ready to go. Now he's another question. So, Dwayne Brown is definitely on the Jets' radar. He's got to be. Got to sign him. Just bring him in. Figure out what you're going to do there. Move, put him, there. Move Font, at left. Move Font to right. And get this offensive line fixed quickly because you need to put a good offensive line that you fully trust in front of your second-year quarterback, Zach Wilson, which is obviously the most important, is to keep him healthy. And not even just health, but he's going to, the only way he's going to perform well and the only way you're going to truly see a second-year jump out of him if he has time in the pocket to throw the football. Darnold never had that. In his 3 years with the Jets, he never had time in the pocket. Wilson, for the first time in a long time, as a Jet quarterback, truly should have time in the pocket to throw. This injury definitely hurts that, but if you bring in Dwayne Brown, that's definitely it's a short-term solution for a guy that's been in the league for a long time, 5-time Pro Bowler, has shown no signs of slowing down, very good asset. So that's got to be the main priority, keeping your quarterback keeping your quarterback protected, and also seeing that second-year jump, he needs to have time in the pocket. So those are my training camp notes and stuff coming out of the New York Jets. So you go from really no injuries to everything going good to Becton going down with an injury, and then a couple hours later you hear Matt Carpenter suffers a broken foot. So New York sports yesterday took a pretty big hit in the world of injuries. Despite the Yankees getting a win, it just, it's obviously good to get a win, but you feel for Matt Carpenter because he's been so good this season, and it's just one of those freak things. Fouls the ball off his foot, breaks it, and now you wonder what his, season looks like. Now, he did say that he hopes that he can return for this September stretch run, but you'd be asking for a fractured foot to heal in about a month, which maybe it does, maybe he plays through it, we'll see. But it's a big loss, and you see this all the time, in baseball, where guy fouls the ball off his foot, done for the year. Guy gets hit with a pitch, done for a long time. Like, it's just those freak accidents that it stinks, especially for Matt Carpenter, a guy who, the story was great. He was just raking, coming off a weekend in which he played at his former team in St. Louis. This year in 128 at-bats, 47 games played, he's batting .305, got a .412 on-base percentage, .727 slugging, got an OPS of 1,138, 1.138, and he's got a WAR of 2.4. So for a guy that got picked up in the middle of the year to be a depth piece, to be a guy that was just there to kind of hold a roster spot, not really sure how long he was going to be with the Yankees. He literally said, if you need me to load bags onto the plane, I will. He turned into that to turning into one of the Yankees' best hitters and a guy that's been one of the better players in all of baseball for the past 2 months, ranging back from about May 26th all the way until now. So for the past 3 months, really, he's been one of the better hitters in all of baseball, and he's been one of the better hitters on the Yankees, and he's been huge for the Yankees. It's not even just like he's getting hits. It's the timing of those hits. He's been getting big hits throughout this season. Whether it's the grand slam against Boston or, the big hits. Even over the weekend in St. Louis, he had a couple big hits. They weren't able to win any of those games, but he did his job. And, just the fact that, what he was in St. Louis, which he was a very good player for a very long time. But the past couple years of his career in St. Louis started to struggle. Last season, had a batting average in the ones, way below the Mendoza line. Really poor performance, and he really struggled. Cardinals got rid of him. He joins the Texas Rangers, organization, playing minor league baseball there for the Texas Rangers. In the middle of Texas, he's playing minor league baseball, and the Yankees give him a call and say, hey, come play for us. And he turns into a guy that's just playing in the minor leagues, really wondering what his future holds in terms of baseball and what his future holds in the MLB, gets a call from the New York Yankees and says, oh, come on, come on our team, join us here. And he turned into one of the Yankees' best hitters, one of the best players, and really, in a way, he turned into a kind of a guy that would play every once in a while to almost an everyday player. Now, he's not an everyday player. He doesn't play every single game, but he's not a guy like a Judge or a LeMahieu that's out there every night. But he's close to that. He's got started to get into the range where they've just found ways to put his bat in the lineup. He kind of transformed a little bit into an outfielder. His arm's not great, but they sacrificed the defense to put his bat in the lineup. They've been putting him at DH. And up to this point, if he kept hitting like this, you looked at Matt Carpenter as the possible DH going into the postseason. So you look at the losses for the Yankees, this is a big loss because this has been one of your best hitters. It's been a great story. He's brought in phenomenal energy around the team. And for a freak accident to happen like that, it really stinks. And for a roster and for a team right now that's trying to get out of a tough stretch, when one of your better players, one of the better stories in all of the league gets hurt and kind of takes a tumble, it's got to have an effect on the locker room. So a really, really tough injury, not only for Matt Carpenter, but for this Yankee team. Because ever since he's joined this team, 15 home runs, 39 hits, 37 RBIs, the things he has done for this team in just a short amount of time, like I said, 47 games, only 128 at-bats, has been out of this world. He's doing things. There was records he was going up there with, Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth. He's doing things, even though some of the best Yankees of all time have never done. I think he had 2 7 RBI games with us, against Chicago, that 18-4 beatdown. And then when the Yankees beat the Red Sox, what was it, like 14-1, he had the grand slam. He goes from playing minor league baseball in Texas to getting a curtain call at Yankee Stadium. It really is wild, the story that Matt Carpenter has created and that the Yankees have created by bringing him in, as that originally was just a depth piece, and now you look at him as a true threat in the lineup. And like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, a guy that, if everything went on track and everything went as planned, he most likely, game one of any playoff series, would be the DH. I know Donaldson has heated up a little bit, but, maybe you throw him at DH and put LeMahieu at third, but, he hasn't nearly heated up to the way Matt Carpenter has. I know he had a good night last night with 4 hits, but, the Yankees right now are now in a position where you got to make a roster move. And, LeCastro filled in for him last night, and he went 0 for 4. LeCastro's not the answer. He's not. The Yankees got to figure something out. Whether that's, you can't trade for anybody. Trade deadline's over. So whether the Yankees sign somebody that's maybe got, sign somebody that's out there, whether they promote a guy like an Oswald Peraza, bring up Miguel Andujar, who would fill the position because he's an outfielder. Peraza does not do that. Peraza's a shortstop. He's not an outfielder. So do you bring in a guy like an Andujar that could fill that position? And you got to wonder, too, how long. Because last night, Carpenter said he feels he'll be ready for the stretch run in September. So, if a broken foot happens August 8th, you'd assume at least a month. So, mid-September at earliest, because he's going to need to do some rehab assignments. Who knows how long he's out? There's a possibility with a broken foot. It takes time to heal. It's different for everybody. I'm not a doctor, but it does take time to heal. So, this could be something that takes longer to heal than maybe he expects. You got to wonder, and I don't want to be negative, but you got to wonder how much more of Matt Carpenter you might see this year. He might sound optimistic and say, I'll be ready by September. But if it's still broken and it's still not really fully healed, that's going to be extremely painful. Especially for a guy that if you want to even throw him out in the outfield, he's not great already. You throw him out there with a broken foot, that's not good. So you really got to wonder now what the Yankees do. Do they call up Peraza? Do they call up Andujar? Andujar would probably be the smarter move just because he can play outfield. That's kind of what Carpenter brought. Carpenter could bring a ton to the table. He's played some third. He played some outfield. Played some first. He can play everywhere. You bring in Peraza, you're strictly asking him to play short. So I think he could also play second, but that's not really helping. But then you'd have to throw LeCastro out there in the outfield. Do you really want LeCastro out there that often? I don't have nothing against LeCastro. He's a good base runner. He's very fast. He's a good defender, but his bat's not good. So you gotta wonder. You gotta put that into account. Andujar would most likely seems like the most logical option for the New York Yankees. Now, I know a lot of Yankee fans out there are going to want to bring up Peraza, and they're going to want him, a young guy, maybe gives you the team a boost of energy, all that stuff. But I think the most logical option would probably bring in Andujar. Maybe neither of those guys are what the Yankees do. Maybe they sign somebody out there that maybe got DFA'd or whatever. Maybe they bring up some guy in the minor leagues that we weren't really expecting. We'll see. We'll see what the Yankees do. I don't know. The Peraza stuff. I have nothing against Peraza. What I have against is people saying bring in Peraza to replace IKF. And I want to make that clear. It's not like I don't like Peraza. I think Peraza is a phenomenal player. He's the Yankees' number 2 prospect for a reason. Right? He's a phenomenal player. Yankees purposely kind of, didn't try to trade him because they know that he does. He's very, he's just a very, very solid player. Very good defensively, very good offensively. He brings all that stuff to the table. He's got a bright young future. Him and Anthony Volpe are going to be, hopefully going to be in this Yankee organization with the Yankee team for a very long time. If Peraza can play second and Volpe can play short, you're looking at maybe your infield combo for the next many, many, many years. That's more down the road, though. I have nothing against Peraza. I don't. I just have, I'm against when people say bring in Peraza to get rid of IKF, who's been horrible, which is just simply not true. IKF's been phenomenal. He's batting over 300 with runners in scoring position. He's third on the team in hits, only behind DJ LeMahieu and Aaron Judge. And I would say being behind those 3 in hits is, you're talking about 2 of some of the best hitters in baseball being behind them. Put Fleff on any other team in baseball, he probably leads the team in hits. He's only behind DJ LeMahieu and Aaron Judge. Well, you're talking about LeMahieu and Aaron Judge. So, he's been phenomenal this year. He hits with the runners in scoring position. All of these Yankee fans complain about, now he's third on the team in hits, but behind Torres. So, he's 4th on the team in hits now, but you look at his runners in scoring position, people complain about that. He hits with runners in scoring position. So, I that's what I'm against. I'm just against. He's got a 371 batting average. He's not a high on base guy. He's got 315 on base percentage, but he gets hits. And people say, oh, what isn't hit for power? You don't need him to hit for power. You don't need Fleff to hit for power. You have Rizzo who could hit for power. You have Judge who could hit for power. Carpenter prior to the injury was hitting for power. Judge, he leads the league in home runs. He had another one last night, 44. He's going to be chasing down Roger Maris's record of 61 towards the final stretch of the season. We'd all assume if he continues this pace and he keeps this up. Stanton, he's hurt, but when he comes back, we all know what he brings to the table in terms of, he's denting baseballs in the All-Star game. So, we'll see what the Yankees do. We'll see where they go. My thing is if you do bring up Peraza, which might sound great, you just might probably see a little bit more of LeCastro because Harrison Bader's not ready. Now, if Bader was ready, you look at this completely differently. If Carpenter gets hurt and Harrison Bader was ready, you look at this from a completely different spectrum. Because now you're like, all right, you have your outfielder, you trust him. Maybe you can bring up Peraza just to add another bat to the lineup. So, we'll see. I also want to make sure, you don't want to rush Peraza either. I know he's in AAA and his estimated time on arrival is this year, but you don't want to rush him. You don't want to bring him up, have him do terrible, lower his confidence, and that could very well ruin him. And that happens. Teams rush prospects, they come up too early, and it ruins them, and they're never the same. That happens. So you want to make sure, too, that Peraza is fully ready and ready to go. He's very good at AAA, but is he truly ready for the MLB? Because if he's not, that could take a turn for the worse, and now you look at him as being a bright future to a guy that might never be able to catch up to Major League hitting. And you think that might sound extremely negative, but look at Jared Kelenic. Mariners rushed him up not rushed him, but look at him. He's a guy that was one of the top prospects in all baseball, comes up, can't hit. In the Major League level, batting 126. So he did hit a home run off of Garrett Cole. But, you get where I'm coming from. So, Yankees have options. I don't know if you want to see, as a Yankee fan, Tim LeCastro out there a lot more in the outfield. Because LeCastro, I have nothing against him. But he's not. Let's say Carpenter's out for the rest of the year. I know you're going to expand the roster in the postseason. LeCastro's not going to be playing out there. But if there would to be another injury and there would be something that happens, I don't think LeCastro is going to be the guy that you really want, up in a big spot. LeCastro's not going to hit in the postseason. But, down the stretch here, we'll see. So, I would assume that the 2 guys that the Yankees are looking at is either Andujar or Peraza to bring up. That's personally what I would say. There could be another guy. Maybe there is. Who knows. But for the time being, you got to bring up somebody like that because Bader's still hurt. When Bader comes back and he can play outfield, well, then that completely changes things. But, when is Bader going to come back? So, there's still some questions with this Yankee team. But it was a good win last night. Don't want to make this the story of it all, although it is a big story. It just stinks because, it's one of those things. And you see the players these days, and I mean, they've been doing it for a long time. They wear that leg guard, and somehow every time they hit a foul ball, it misses the leg guard. Like, those things cover their foot, but a lot of times when these guys are swinging, their foot's not, foot's not staying completely planted. They hit a foul ball, it's sometimes hitting the inside of it. Like, no matter how much protection you put on your ankles and your feet and stuff, which is what these hitters do these days, the ball always finds the place that is not protected. Always. Even like all these elbow guards and stuff, it ends up hitting them in like the forearm, not the elbow. The hand, they might have like a protection in the hand, like a fist here, it'll hit them in the fingers. It's just always, the ball always finds where the protection is not. I mean, even as a catcher sometimes. I mean, you get hit as a catcher, anywhere. I mean, you sometimes you have all that protection on, and sometimes it hits these guys where the protection is not. So you see that often. It just stinks because it's just a freak accident. It's a foul ball off your foot, and that could change things. And that's sometimes what just happens. It's unlucky. So, Yankees game 2 today against the Mariners, as they'll look to win the series. Cole will be on the mound, and I mentioned this earlier. Tonight's a big night for Cole. If Cole lets up another 5-6 run outing and struggles again, well, there's serious problems then. Because not only will he struggle 2 outings in a row, but you look at an ERA, and his ERA right now is 3.56. If you look at his ERA after tonight, he lets up 6 more runs, you're looking at almost an ERA maybe that might be near 4. And 4 is not bad for an average pitcher. 4 is really bad for an ace. So Cole's got to bounce back tonight. After getting absolutely rocked against the Mariners last time. All right, so let's finish things off here today. Get you to the baseball games tonight. So the games tonight in the MLB, you got the White Sox versus the Royals, Blue Jays versus the Orioles. By the way, the Orioles won last night, so they won the first game of that series. And the Orioles continue to win games and continue to, stay close in the American League wildcard race. Phillies, Marlins, Red Sox, Braves, Tigers, Guardians, White Sox, Royals. That's a doubleheader. Cubs, Nationals. You got Rangers, Astros, Rays, Brewers, Cardinals, Rockies, A's, Angels. Padres, Giants. Musgrove on the mound there, so that should be a good pitching game there. Pirates, Diamondbacks, and Dodgers, Twins. I'll tell you what. The Padres, and I was a big believer in them, and I'm not saying that I've lost all hope. But the Padres got shut out last night, 1-0, against the Giants. So, you look at that Padres lineup with Soto and all those guys, to lose 1-0 is not good at all. They get swept by the Dodgers, then they lose 1-0 to a Giants team that has really just been a big disappointment this year. And a team that thought about selling at the deadline. Carlos Rodon was on the market, Jock Peterson, a couple of those guys were all on the market. Padres are a team that, despite all the talent in that lineup, they lost 1-0 and they got shut out and they just got swept by the Dodgers. So things might not be going as smoothly as expected. As for the Mets, Reds tonight, Mets come into tonight's game 71-39. Reds come into tonight's game 44-64. The Reds have Mike Minor on the mound. He's 1-8 with a 6.19 ERA. And the Mets have Carlos Carrasco on the mound. He's 12-4 with a 3.82 ERA. Over-under set at 8.5. 7:10 Eastern on SNY. That will be the second game of a 3-game set there at Citi Field. And for the second game of a 3-game set at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, you got the Yankees and the Mariners. Yankees open up tonight with a 71-39 record. Mariners open up tonight with a 59-52 record. 10:10 Eastern on Yes Network. Garrett Cole on the mound. He's 9-4 with a 3.56 ERA. And the Mariners have Luis Castillo on the mound. So the same exact pitching matchup from the game Wednesday of last week, which was a getaway day, where Cole threw 6 innings. Well, I think it was 6 innings of 6-run ball, and he let up 6 runs in the first inning. 3 of those homers, one of those coming to Jared Kelenic, who came into the game batting 126. So Cole will look to bounce back. Luis Castillo will look to have a similar performance. He's 5-4 with a 2.95 ERA. Over/under is 7. So sometimes you see pitchers, when they face a team 2 times in a row, back-to-back starts, they'll face them one start, then their next start's against the same team. Sometimes you'll see them do better, and sometimes you'll see the offense have the advantage. Usually, the offense has the advantage in the second start because they saw what the pitcher brought to the table in their first start. And the Mariners nailed Garrett Cole in his first start against the Mariners this year. So this is his second start in a row against the Mariners. He's got to bring it. If he struggles again, then you really get concerned because then you officially kind of remove the ace card off of him, and now you're looking at a postseason where you have no ace. So, not great. As for fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning in my one league 37 to -3, so that's going good. And that league, by the way, like I said, Chris Bassett last night had a very, very good game. He threw 8 innings, 8 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, got me 30 fantasy points. And when you look at that Mets rotation, I mean, it's just lethal. You have Scherzer and DeGrom, and then you have Bassett and Taijuan Walker. And you look at that, I mean, Bassett's very good. Bassett could be, I mean, he was, in a way, kind of an ace for the A's last year. Him and Frankie Montes last season and Sean Manaea kind of all shared that three-way, that three-way title of being kind of the team's aces. Manaea, who's now with the Padres, Frankie Montes, who's now with the Yankees, and Bassett now with the Mets, all doing well. Well, Montes, I mean, he struggled in his first outing, but I wouldn't crush him for it. But Bassett's been phenomenal this year, and he's a guy that he's just he's a old-fashioned pitcher. Goes right at the hitter. He's going to throw fastballs. He's not going to be too fancy. He's not going to overthink it. He's just going to put the ball over the plate, hit his spots, get outs, and, pitch deep into games. He'll strike guys out. He'll definitely do that. I mean, he 8 of those last night. And, look at some of his recent starts. He had 11 against San Diego a couple starts prior to that. So he's a guy that brings a lot to the table. And his ERA now is 3.32. So, I mean, you look at the Mets rotation. You have Scherzer, who has just been phenomenal. You have DeGrom, who in his first 2 starts back is Jacob DeGrom. Chris Bassett and Taijuan Walker. And you add Cookie Carrasco to the mix that he's inconsistent at times. But when he's consistent and when he's on his game, Carlos Carrasco is a very, very good pitcher when he's on his game. There's been games where Carrasco has really struggled. But when Carrasco's on his game, he's a very good pitcher. So you look at that Mets rotation and you just got to say, and this is where I compare the Mets and the Yankees. And you say, well, the Mets, it's Bassett, it's DeGrom, all those guys. Really good. So, and I have 3 of them on my fantasy team. So Mets are locked and loaded. Biggest threat now is the Dodgers because the Padres, not going to overreact and say that their season's over, but they've definitely shown some weaknesses over the past couple games with the sweeping of the Dodgers and getting shut out last night against the Giants. They'll look to get a win tonight against the Giants again with Joe Musgrove on the mound, fresh off of his big extension. And in my other league for fantasy, I'm winning 10 to -1 as well, so that's going good there. And I've got Joe Musgrove on the mound in that league. Today, I've got nobody on the mound for my main league. So, Kyle Gibson will go Thursday. Scherzer pitches again. I believe Scherzer pitches again Friday, so he'll get the first game of the 3-game set against Cincinnati on Friday, and then it will probably be DeGrom then on Saturday, and then Sunday will be Bassett again, or no, it would be probably Taijuan Walker on Sunday. It would be Bassett. Because Walker will probably pitch, I'd assume, tomorrow. Yeah, Walker will get tomorrow. Carrasco gets today. Day off Thursday. Friday will be Scherzer, DeGrom, Bassett, Walker, Carrasco, so on and so forth. So that will do it for the podcast here today. Big night tonight, like I said, for Garrett Cole. Got to show up. Second start against the Mariners. Not only is it, just for his sake to get a revenge start against them after getting, really, really tattooed last time. It's also a big start, because this past week has, a lot in the media of people calling him, not really an ace. And I've always liked Cole. I've always supported him, even through last year. I was always kind of on his side through all the sticky stuff. But this season has definitely been, the start that he made against Seattle last week is, in a rubber game of a 3-game set, and it's a day game. You're not rolling out your best lineup. A couple guys have a day off. you're going through still a little bit of a rough stretch in the season. You're trying to wrap up a homestand the right way. You want your ace out there, and when he doesn't deliver, it's definitely frustrating. So he'll look to bounce back today. Like I said, when you pitch up against a team 2 times in a row, back-to-back starts, it can sometimes go your way. You can bounce back. It also sometimes go the other team's way because they've seen you now 2 times in a row, and they know what you're bringing to the table. So hopefully Cole bounces back. Yankees go for the series win today along with the Mets. That will do it. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.